Hey everyone, I'm finally back with episode 2 of the $250 recording budget challenge. Last time we were together, we set everything up, plugged in our microphone, opened our first project, and started our first audio track. Now I spent some time over the last few weeks getting used to Studio One, messing around with the microphone, with Acoustic, and trying to plug in my electric guitar. And there's a couple things I noticed, even though this is a great deal, it's a little sad to see the DAW doesn't support third-party plugins. Also, to throw salt in the wound, the interface clipped when using high output pickup guitars. But this version is outdated, and the new version only costs about $225 and comes with updated inputs that can accept high Z. So I bought a $25 DI box from Palmer, and a DI box always comes in handy in home and professional recording. So before anyone asks, I use this esoteric DR2 for guitar. It's loaded with EMGs and the tone is just relentless. I also use this Ibanez Peter Iwer's signature 5-string bass, and it also just sounds great, and he also plays for In Flames, by the way. I also want to give a special shout out to Rob at Hawk Picks. He hand makes these in the UK, and I've just been punishing them and they don't show anywhere at all. So I'll give a link down in the description. Make sure you grab your coffee for this one. Alright, so when you first open up Studio One, you're going to see your audio tracks all laid out and kind of a blank window, I would say. So if you hit this mix button down below, it's going to open up your mixer, and that's going to have all your audio tracks, your effects channels, and your buses. It's great to have everything right there in front of you. If you have a dual monitor setup, you can throw it on a different monitor. And I'm also going to hit this I button up on the top left. And what the I button does is it gives you the information for the track you have selected at that moment. So that's pretty effective in especially knowing what settings you're adjusting at that certain time. All right. So I'm going to start off with showing you guys what I did on my master bus. So if we open up what I have, this is post. So it's the very last thing that everything is going to go through. And once you start doing some mixes, you kind of see some similar things you do to all your tracks, or at least you do to the end of all your mixes. So this is kind of a combination of all of that from what I've learned throughout my mixing days. So if you go through the first thing, it's the Pro EQ. It's a pretty good EQ plugin, nothing special, nothing bad about it either. So I have a not so gentle lower bass boost, and I also have a not so gentle high boost. It's kind of similar to what you see a lot of people doing nowadays, most notably Nolly's, kind of where I first saw it. And he calls it top-down mixing, or I don't know who started that, but it's really effective, I think, and my mixes have started sounding better since I used it. Anyways, I make sure to have high quality selected. And the next thing I have used is the Tricomp, which is PreSonus's own mastering compressor, I would call it. And it works pretty well. It's not really distorting anything. It sounds pretty effective. I don't have it compressing almost anything at all, especially when we're just going to be listening to the guitar alone. At first, you're not going to hear almost any compression. Less than 1 dB is going to be happening. The limiter, I usually have a limiter slammed on the back anyways, but the limiter for PreSonus actually sounds really bad. I don't know, I'm going to try to use it again at the end of the mix, but it distorts really bad anytime it's starting to actually limit anything. So I don't even have that turned on. So I'm just using the Pro Q and the Tricomp. All right, so what we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on the guitar track. So I know this says rhythm guitar left, but I went ahead and panned it center for you, and I just singled it down to one audio track so you guys can see right here. So we're going to hear what it sounds like completely dry, and I'm going to bring in the different pieces as their importance arises. So one of the most important things is the amp sim and the speaker impulse you use for these, I would say, plug-in style guitar amplifiers. So Ampire, luckily, is PreSonus's own native amp simulation software, and it sounds really good, but it definitely sounds even better when you throw some third-party impulse responses on it. So I actually have used some Wilkinson audio impulse responses and some Ownhammer impulse responses. I use the free ones for the sake of the recording budget, but I also own some of the paid ones, and they are wonderful. Anyways, once you think you're sounding pretty good there, I went ahead and added a red light distortion. It's just a distortion plugin, but it kind of gave it a little more girth and a little more balls. So once I was feeling good there too, I decided to use a gate, and that really just started to help it clamp down so you didn't have all that fuzz in between notes. Next, I used a chorus, and that helped it sound a little bigger and a little more natural in my opinion. Not a huge change, but I think it sounds a little better. Now the first EQ I use is always subtractive, so I take away anything I don't want. So as you see, I just kind of generally use some stuff here. Definitely gonna go change this in the end, but I just use from what I've known. Let's go back so you can hear some stuff still. So that's everything subtracted, and then you usually try not to boost anything if you can. But I do have a couple things boosted, just really lightly. You see a little bit in the low end, and really small right here around 2 and 3K. It looks like, right at 2K. It's probably less than the dB. And that just helps shape the sound and give you the best tone you can get. Now, after you're done with that, one of the coolest things you can do, without even double tracking guitar, which is tracking 2 different takes, is we can copy that, go to another guitar channel, and we're gonna paste the exact same guitar track. If we don't have things messing up or not lining up. So when you paste it to the next channel, it's really cool. What you do is you actually, if I take this out of solo, and I'm gonna pan the first one we had all the way left, and I'm gonna pan the other one all the way right. Now the only thing I did different was change the distortion plugin a little bit, change the EQs a little bit, and I also changed the Ampere plugin simulation, and I used different impulse responses. So that's gonna really give you a huge guitar sound. So this isn't even double track, this is one single take, and you can already hear how much bigger the guitar sounds. Now, one thing that's definitely not so prominent in metal mixes anymore, it's reverb. But reverb can really help give some life and some dimension to the guitar tone, especially when the guitar tones are all digital. You really need some of that space to make it feel like, so the listener can see it. So if you add this reverb right here, it's really low in the mix. You can see negative 36 dB. You're really not hearing it, but it's giving it some more character and some liveliness. So now that I was happy with the guitar tone, I kind of just jammed around, started feeling it out, and started getting a little creative, and what I started feeling felt nice. And once I did that, I actually queued up the plugin for a sample-based plugin from PreSonus, and that's the Impact. And you can go ahead and open different sorts of kits and stuff like that. I think at first I just loaded whichever kit sounded kind of like a rock drum kit, and I basically just programmed a kick, so that way I can jam to a kick instead of a click, because clicks sound horrible and are not so entertaining. So the drum kick just sounded like this. And it sounds dry and not so interesting. I'm going to change it later on too. Like I said, it's just to kind of get in the creative mood and start writing something. Once I finally got all the way into the creative mood, I felt this is kind of what I came up with. And I'm going to throw in the bass and the little synthesizer thing I wrote using the keyboard. And we'll get into those later on. But right now you're just going to know what I did with the guitar. So you can see it grooves pretty good, especially just with that kick. It really helped me feel something that I thought sounded pretty good. I don't really know what direction I'm gonna go in. It kind of sounds like a Rob Zombie song to me, but I'll try not to copy him. But it should be some pretty good fun anyways. So that's the verse, I would say, and then I came up with a chorus. You can hear that synth in there. It's really low, but kind of helps add some character. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it, but for the writing process, for now, it's staying. Call this maybe a second part of the chorus or maybe a bridge. I'm not sure yet. Just kind of feeling out riffs and feeling the groove. Now remember, this is actually only one guitar track too, so there's not a different guitar track left and right. It is one guitar track with two different amp sims on the left and right side and two different speaker simulations. Otherwise, they are almost identical. Anyways, I just wrote some more riffs and I came up with one more kind of bridge. And that's pretty much it. I'm gonna continue writing this song, obviously, just so you guys have a little dimension. I'll show you what the bass sounds like. Oh, by the way, you can actually, just like any other DAW, you can actually collapse your audio tracks into a folder, which is really convenient. So say I have these two bass tracks, you go ahead and highlight both, and you right-click, and then you'll see on the bottom, pack folder, and it puts them in a nice little folder, just like this. And if you make a VCA or a aux channel out of it, you can automate the volume of whatever's in that folder through one fader, which is really nice. Anyways, let's hear the nasty gritty bass. Yeah, it's not so glorious, but I'm gonna work on that more later. It was just to kind of have something sitting in the mix. So that was a quick and dirty run through of how I got creative using this interface, Studio One, and the stock plugins. I also wanted to show you guys the power of this microphone recording an acoustic guitar. Even though the song I'm writing isn't going to have an acoustic guitar, I wanted to show you guys how awesome it sounds. So I wrote a little trailer right here for you. It's only 2 acoustic guitar lines with a couple stock plugins, and I think it sounds really awesome and really big. Check it out. Alright guys, that's it for this episode. Next time we come back, I'm going to have a little bit more of this song written, and we're going to put some drums to it to start making it sound big and real. Keep it brutal. By using the USB cable. When you plug it in, you're going to see this red light indicating that you're ready to get going. The M7 microphone, you're going to start off by mounting it to your microphone stand. Once you're set up with that, you're ready to go ahead and plug in the XLR. Make sure you line up the male XLR cable with